We're going to be talking about NIMBUS Control, which is excellent because I know very little about it. However, Jeff Keithley, through his roles at Live Sports LLC and Pizzazz, continues to influence the evolution of broadcast workflows, leveraging cloud technologies to enhance the quality and reach of live sports productions. How's that for an intro, Jeff? And what do you know about NIMBUS?
So what is NIMBUS? NIMBUS Control is a platform that we've built to make it easier for those that are involved heavily in remote and cloud productions to allow us to be able to do the job easier. So in a nutshell, that's what it is on the simplest side. On the more advanced side let me back up just a little bit, how we started. So we started because I've been doing remote production in our business for live sports for a little over 10 years now, definitely, in different types. So it could be graphics, it could be audio, sometimes even it could be definitely camera control as we developed that workflow and made it work well for us for almost 12 years of doing professional tennis. So we were able to change our model around quite a bit by doing remote production. So before the COVID came in and said, "Hey, everybody, we're going to do it this way now," and everybody had to kind of pivot to a remote production or in some cloud production at that point. We were already working at this, and so one of the things, the big issues that we always ran across is with a new operator, a new system. You have a bit of an onboard process, right? So you start off with, okay, well, you need to download this software. Yeah. Oh, by the way, these are your credentials to log in. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, let me reset your password. Okay, now are you in? Okay, finally we have comps. And then the next thing after that would be, oh, well, what about we need to have remote control of those computers or the remote systems themselves. Okay, we need to put in a control layer for that. That could be TeamViewer, that could be Splashtop, Parsec, any of the common things we're using for desktop control. Then the next thing would be hardware control. So if I needed to point, say, a Stream Deck or any of the TIS modules or anything at all, MIDI controllers whatsoever, I needed to be able to point those to the remote hardware or the remote software in order to control it easier. Because not everybody wants to use a touchscreen, not everybody wants to use a mouse. So we were having a challenge all the time getting that done. And I just, in the back of my mind for years, I just kept thinking, it's like, I'm not a web developer by any means. And I just kept thinking to myself, it's like, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cool if we had a website that we just go to a website, we log in, and then from that point, we have the tools we need in front of us without having to go and do all this step one, step two.
If only
step
there were
50.
a Slack for remote contribution. Is that the long and the short of it?
It's more than that's the thing is I was envisioning more than Slack because I wanted to make it easier for the producers. I work with a wide variety of people from different levels, from like really high level, very technical to talent that are not that they struggle to turn on a microphone. I mean, even people like today struggle to turn on a microphone. But most of our experiences are, it's a habit, it's a learned memory process, things like that. But if you don't have that over and over thing like I do, like Jonas does, like Guy does now, if you don't do it over and over, you forget little things and you forget how easy it comes to us that have been doing it, that the people that haven't been doing it, that they struggle in understanding all the different steps, right? So
sure.
This is kind of where it changed. It kind of morphed a little bit as we started down this path, but that's where I started was, okay, I wanted like a dashboard to land at, and I wanted to be able to go from this point. I wanted to be able to go a little bit further, and that's kind of where we've ended up with this project. So we're officially going to start releasing it in January 1 of 2025. So right around the corner.
Wow, really coming up.
Yeah, we've actually been using it. We've been using it for months, and there's more behind the scenes that we've been using for years. So it's really kind of just tying it all together in a nice little pretty bow, and eventually we'll put a price tag on it. So there's more than it's not just a brand new thing. It's just tidying up some things that we had. So one of the main things that we tried to make it as easy, but also that we were very insistent on is I wanted to make it secure. So the idea behind is that you would log in. So let's go ahead and kind of let's get out of this talking stuff and let me show you what we have. And
go for it. Demo.
Okay. So I am good, just to let the back end staff know that I am going to be doing a share real quick. And you should be able to see that now, I hope. So we all start here. All right. So we started at the login. This is it. This is the same kind of login that you probably use on a lot of different. This is going to be done as a SaaS. So SaaS/PaaS. Now, a little bit of difference between those is a SaaS is strictly software, PaaS being more of a platform as a service. So we will be doing a combination between not only a software-only solution that people can use this in their own in venues, because this is not just a cloud thing. It is cloud, on-prem, public cloud, private cloud, and like I said, on-prem also. So it can be deployed in multiple different ways. And our key factor behind it is we want to make sure it's secure. So we don't want clients we don't want clients knowing what other clients are doing. We don't want users knowing what other users are doing either. And that's so everybody's siloed and authenticated so that they are not crossing the streams effectively. All right. So from that point of going into the actual desktop that you log into, that's simple enough. From that point, it brings you into the dashboard. Now, the dashboard, as you can see here, is pretty simple to start with. So the way it works is from a top down, you come in as an organization, then you go to a role or a user, and then you're assigned a role underneath that. And every user could have they could be in multiple projects, so multiple organizations of sorts, or they could also have multiple roles that are assigned to them also. Now, you may have in one project, you may be a technical director. The next project, you may be a producer. The next project, you may be an EIC, which is actually the funnest game of all. So let's go ahead and we'll just pick which project we want to use off of this. And below that, you'll see I have some demos right now.
We'll have your share back in just a second. There was a flash issue. So.
All right, no problem at all. Well, so after we go into the project itself, when we pick out the project, then we have the option of having cards or links that are there, though. So each one of these buttons that we are showing, and I could actually show you a different camera if it helps you on the back end, guys. There, just let me know.
Now the flash is persistent, so I think you're just going to have to describe it. I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what's going on.
Okay. All right. Well, that's not a problem. Well, we can get send it out a different way. Hang on just a second. Now, that's the great thing about technology, right?
That's right. If only we could do this remotely, wouldn't this be cool?
Well, we kind of are, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We are. Here we are.
So the thing behind the dashboard was to make it as easy. So in each one of the cards or each one of the images that are on there, you'll see once you see it, you'll see some icons on there that are indicative of what that is, where it's going, and what it's going to give you. One of the things is like we wanted to have easy links to get to computers, for instance. I didn't want to have to give you a URL and then you would have to go to a Google Sheet and you have to pull a copy of the URL, paste it in there. There may be something wrong. This is just a button. So now you click the button and you're into that machine. It's simple as that, and it's already doing the login process for you through our single sign-on solution and all the MFA. So multi-factor authentication and everything is all happening, and so it's secure getting to those pieces.
I can share your feed, so go ahead and you can show it now.
Keep talking.
Okay.
And,
all right, great, thanks. All right, so teamwork, right? So then. And this is what we're going back to. This is what we're talking about exactly. I mean, we couldn't have a better demo because we're doing this live of a thing that we're doing, right? So we right now, guys across the country, he reached out and grabbed my signals from here that are going through something called the internet, and then all this information has been disseminated out to everybody else. So in our
Seattle to Texas, for those who are tuning in.
Yes. So we're a ways away, and now we see exactly what we're talking about. A distributed workflow. This is what we're trying to make it easier. So on the project on the football here, we have just a couple cards, but we could add more. Say for instance, this guy here that I have, it opened up a browser window, and once I had logged in, it's already there. Every time after that, I will be able to copy and go directly into it. And in that browser window, I would actually open up and get access through Splashtop. They have a web access through the browser. So through Splashtop, I'm talking to my BizVector that's in the other rooms over there in the racks. So that's what my guys are in there playing around with. I have no idea what they're doing. I just told them to follow along and have fun. So now that's one of the cards things. If I wanted to go into, say for instance, this is a bigger one we'll show later, but if I had a specific need in a situation, that one's not, that we needed to do a SCSI 35 type trigger, we have the capabilities of doing that now just by tying in a couple pieces of equipment that we have here that are also managing a lot of those services. So the big part of, besides picking your dashboard apart, this is the kind of the beginning, and this is just like, it's shortcuts, it's easy, it's simple, right? The big part is this though. So whenever I click here on that panel, it's going to open up my TD view of everything. Now, you'll notice that there are multiple modules within this. So for instance, I have a multi-viewer here that's on the left side. I have on the right side, right now, we're just running I have a countdown clock that's coming off of our own time server. And then on the right bottom side, hey, guess what? This is the embedded part coming back from, right now, coming back from the actual output of office hours and there. And so now with the next thing, we go to the producer view, right? The producer view may have a different look. They may want to move things around and have a little bit more space. So we have the top left, we have Nimbus coming back through the office hours, and we have our view there. In the bottom left is a video feed coming from program. And then we have a larger, this is like a very edible and very usable rundown, so we can actually have the rundown for producer there. Whenever each one of these things need to be adjusted, I can go into and actually edit each one of those. So if I didn't want this program here, I just right click on it and remove it. And then I could save it out. There's two different ways I could save it. I could save it to the cloud, or I could save it locally. When I save it to the cloud, that means the next time I log into this system, no matter where I'm at, that desktop's going to come back exactly the same way. So the interface is familiar. Everything is familiar for the way I used it. Now, if I saved it to the local side, that means it's just in the browser. It's saved in the browser as a cookie, and whenever I open it back up in that browser, it's going to be the same. If I went back and said, oh, hey, I want to go back to where I wanted to be reset to the cloud, I could actually do that too. And I deleted that one.
The part that's really surprising me is I can hear the click from you, but that round trip, right, is going back and through. So I hear the click, and I can see how quickly it's going back and then through Zoom twice, because again, Guy is sharing this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's pretty, it's quick. It is definitely quick. So one of the things that we are we're seeing now is we're using a lot of HTML5 type of graphic systems. And so we integrated a way to embed those. This is the full browser and everything that I would normally have in a tab. From Singular here, I have the same controls and everything that I wanted to do for graphics. I have those same controls right here in this small little console. Now, I'm actually looking down at a 18-inch screen that's running at 1920 by 1080. I have a 4K screen over here, a 4K 43-inch. I love them, my big screen. So I throw pretty much most of my work on that. Well, if you could really see it right now, Jared could probably cut to that camera, but I don't think we have a feed going to you to see it. But I got windows all over the place. It's a mess. It's like a really messy desk, right?
I have one to my right too,
okay,
and I
you know
love
what I'm talking
it.
about.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you got a lot of space, but you spread out a lot of stuff. You still run out of space. It doesn't matter. So our idea behind the dashboards and the ability to show and adjust those modules around is to kind of work in the way you want to work. We're not forcing you. This is the multi-viewer view for the TD. This is the multi-viewer view for the producer. all that is flexible. If you wanted to move things around, and then it's saved. So you go in, you could open up this one browser full screen and have all the same things in the right places without having to worry about, whether or not it's going to have to, move things around, move the modules around and things like that, move windows around and log it all in. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible on that. You'll notice also on this graphics view here, at the bottom left, there's this company that we are partnered up with, and we're using embedding SpaceComms. So we're working with SpaceComms, VCOM, and unfortunately, Unity doesn't have a way of doing it, so it has to run ancillary altogether. It's just going to run on the side, but VCOM and SpaceComms both are able to be put in as modules. And then there's also another one. So in for our replay operator, the replay operator kind of gets a similar feed of everything, but on the right side over here in the bottom right, one of the things we ran into a lot with corporate productions is the corporate productions don't necessarily have a lot of people that are used to comms like we are in broadcast. So virtual productions, they would just sit there on WhatsApp, or they would sit there on Discord. We use Discord a lot ourselves. And so they're texting back and forth. Well, I can't focus on my little screen whenever I've got a 4K screen in front of me.
Yeah, me either.
So that's where a lot of times I found it was very disruptive, or I would lose focus on what my real jobs I'm doing because I'm trying to type up a message on WhatsApp, right? Well, we've got a way that we can even embed WhatsApp in also for pretty much everything except for the Mac guys, the iMessages right now. We have a method to do everything else pretty much that's popular in a text thing. But Discord is a module right here that we could drop in, and it is a live module. If somebody responded back to me right now, or if I wanted to type to it, this is me, it's going to go right into it, and it's just simultaneously across all your devices and everybody that's logged into that thread. So it's logged in and it's monitoring any of the threads that we tell it to, and you can create a Discord server for free. So it's a very simple and easy way to get in. And you could do comms through this also if you wanted to really simple. And I noticed kind of the overlays are changing throughout all of these. And
along those lines, in fact, I think that's our first question. So we should probably just go through, if you don't mind, because Jonas had.
Yeah, there's one.
Do you want to show more? Go ahead.
There's one more thing, and then we could just kind of really fill this demo EIC thing. I'm not sure if you see it in the bottom left there. Do you see that?
What am I looking for? The knobs?
Yeah, they're knobs, all right.
Oh, there's lots of knobs.
That's a software RCP.
The matrix of the camera number is a nice touch.
So these are it's a software-based RCP system that we partnered up with Multicam RCP. They were about to roll out their product also. And what we're able to do is now remotely control, fully paint in an interface that is very familiar to any V1 that sits down and needs to shade and paint cameras. This is huge, guys. This is comms are cool. All the multi-viewers are cool. All that stuff is easy stuff. This was a huge, huge lift. And I'm just so anticipating a lot of people really digging what it is. So, let's get to some questions because that's what we're here for. I'd love to answer them.
All right, looks like we got a question coming in, and JJ is going to be our reader, so we're switching roles. I'm going to take host from Jason, and we got JJ coming up as reader. Go ahead, JJ.
Jonas Dotzel from Stuttgart, Germany. Can you show the admin side of an admin engineer would use to set up sites for the end users? How do you use the gateway to secure web interfaces only accessible from LAN?
That was more than one question, so we're going to take $1 for each one of those. All right. I can't show the admin side yet because the public facing part of it right now, it is a platform as a service, as I mentioned earlier. So right now we're doing more of the management on the backside for our current clients. And yes, we are already using this for clients. But there is a public, more public friendly, let me put it that way. There's a more public friendly version that is just about finished, and that will be released very soon, but it's not ready to be publicly shown here yet. Jonas. The second question. The gateways, we've written a software, I have a frog in my pocket, and also Brandon Kalinowski that works for me. He's the lead developer behind all the major code stuff behind it. He's worked for me for a couple of years now, and he has done a fantastic job in really taking over lead on this and just really ran with it. Every once in a while, he just sends me messages and says, "Wow, look what I did." And those are the greatest developers ever because they're just thinking ahead. He built a gateway system so that we install a gateway on our site or the cloud site, wherever the client needs it. And they don't always need it, but it is what we're using as a back end. So the gateway handles requests, goes in and out, filters it into the system. It also manages all the authentication and everything like that on the platform, so making sure everything's secure. The gateways also can handle TCP traffic between each other and redirects there. So we could put a gateway, say, for instance, at our office here, which we have, and then another gateway that's in the cloud. And then we could handle traffic between those two gateways, managing links and managing any of the modules that need to talk from one place to the other. So that's how the gateways come into play. It's not always needed on all the levels that we're going to have out there of different client levels, but that's where the gateways are going to be more or less in play.
Yeah, and Jeff, I was able to attend your other session in What Makes It Tick, and I had a question about what made you just come up with this? What is it that, was it clients that just said, we have this need? Was it producers? What did you just... what was the moment that it just said, I got to do it? Yeah.
I've spent, in the last 3 months, we've done a lot of cloud productions, and especially the last event that we did where we had 8 different people in a trailer doing a remote production to a cloud infrastructure. It took us hours and hours, and our buddy Tucker was in that trailer pulling his hair out. But Brandon was in that trailer pulling his hair out, trying to get them up to speed. They've never done a cloud production before as operators. And so there was a lot of just so much of things that are, okay, we have to make sure this is installed. We have to make sure that's installed. And that's where this platform is like, we weren't able to use it on that production, but it really just, it cemented my resolve at that point, was that we have to make this easier for people to do remote production. So say, for instance, firing up infrastructure. Right now, Jonas or myself or Tucker, we have to go into the back end. We have to log into the AWS. You know what to do it too, guys. Once we're logged in, we have to fire up all the individual machines and everything like that. With one button on one of the dashboards, we can press that button, send a script to AWS, and fire it all up at once. So there's going to be and Alex has mentioned this on a couple times on Extra Hours also, is like, I just want one big go button, one big red button to press and turn it all on. And that's exactly what we're trying to offer to the people out there that don't have the whether they know or want to know, either way you look at it, how to use AWS on its ins and outs. It's just trying to make it easier for people to use it.
So isn't that kind of what the TriCaster now, or the new one that they're putting up in the cloud, where they give you like X amount of minutes per month? Is it kind of, is that a staple, like a little piece of it that you were take some of those ideas and be like, okay, I want this, I want John Barker's Dash Master, I want, like, what are all the pieces there that you said,
yeah,
I need all this?
We're trying to take that, I need those pieces. What pieces do I need away? Because they already will have a user panel interface. We call it the UPI. So the user panel interface is where they already see the dashboard. They already see the video feeds. They already see the controller for controlling the router. Whatever they need as a platform, we're giving that to them already. So it's a much more handheld type of approach. Even with TriCaster now, as simple as they tried to make it, it's still, you have to know something about AWS, or you have to know a little bit more than just the average person. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible that anybody walking off the street, if you could log into your Google account, you should be able to see and operate something in the production.
Wow, I'm excited to see more and see how this rolls out and see it live in some productions. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question, JJ.
Paul Valhus from Austin, Texas asks, how does the Nimbus cloud-based management system compare to Google and to other clouds? What does it have or not have compared to others?
Inquiring minds want to know.
It's not a cloud, number one. So it's...
But Nimbus is in the cloud family, so no.
Yeah. I mean, you found the name. The name Nimbus is actually it came from cloud. I did not want to call this, and that's where we that move that we had also of we moved away from just doing cloud production. We're doing remote production, and so this tool is really designed at doing more than just cloud production. Not everybody's ready for that, but a lot of people are doing REMI. A whole lot. But the distributed workflow can work in both a REMI setup where you're just controlling gear in a location, a co-location, or a MCR located in Texas or an MCR located in Las Vegas. You can still control that from other places. Our goal with Nimbus is to be able to give you controls to do those jobs without necessarily it being in the cloud itself.
So we have our friends at PTZ Optics coming out with their platform. Is there any pieces of that kind of puzzle where you're able to do PTZ control, or is that a future rollout? Is that IRIX type development that they were working in partnering?
Yes. So if we so camera control has always been one of my big loves and things like that, right? So I've used camera control for quite a while remotely. We use Mark Roberts motion control. So we have the ability to do that. It's another module that we'll be able to embed. They would have that user control interface the same as anything else, that they will be able to get full control of whatever cameras that they're assigned at that point. So besides Mark Roberts, we also, through Sienna's processing engine, we have PTZ control through that. And then the other part too is if you still have the share up guy, you want to show us on the multicam RCP, we actually have what are these PTZ UE150s here, and each one of those are accessible, and I can actually do full PTZ control from the RCP panels here also. So it's like pick your poison, but we're not trying to be, we're trying to be a whole lot more than just camera control. So what they're doing with PTZ Optics, I think it's great, and it's a good step, and I appreciate them helping us talk about remote control because it's becoming more and more, we're getting more and more aware from people. So now I think we're in a good place that this is a good time for us to roll out, and they will cross over in some places, but there's not a whole lot of crossover because they're not doing everything else that we're doing.
Gotcha. So in the future, will we be able to control, let's say, a Canon module, like a Canon PTZ with, let's say, white balance, not just white balance, but other settings like iris or the finite menu controls or any of that?
Not in the future, immediately, right now.
Right now? You can do it?
Yeah. The multicam RCP is ready to go on Sony's, anything that has NDI. So any NDI that does, or any PTZ camera that's controlled over NDI, VSCO over NDI, it can work with it right now. So all the controls there, just like it should be.
Exciting. All right, next question.
Guy Cochran here, Seattle, Washington. Is there anything on the market similar to Nimbus, or is it multiple pieces of the puzzle integration?
Come on, Jeff. Spill the beans.
I looked at the market. I've been looking at the market. I'm like, when's somebody going to make this? When's somebody going to do this? I can't be the only person in the whole world that's saying, I want something like this. So I bid it. That was my gift. I mean, this is where I could not find anything close, not even close. And then,
I mean, this is what comes out of the real world. I mean, you're out there in your truck, you're going on location. I mean, Grass Valley, all these guys, they're at the high level. And I'm sure they have some internal tools that they're tossing around and 5 years out. But you've got this ready to go next month for guys like Tucker and I and Jonas that we do our productions in the cloud, and we have a lot of windows open. We have a lot of things that we've developed that work for us, but and a lot of them are inexpensive. But if something was robust and integrated and all in one, now we're talking. I mean, and you could save me a lot of money if I accidentally leave, like I did the other night when I left my vector instance open overnight with 4 instances, and there went a couple $100.
Yes. There are little tricks, to that part of it, and having AWS watches on the AW Cloud Watch on and things like that you can do. But and speaking of that, that is one of the things that I didn't mention about earlier is all of the users and also the profiles and the user panels, the modules. Everything can be time-based also. So the user control coming in. So if I said, hey, I want JJ to be a TD for me for whatever reason on Friday, next Friday, I could turn it on Thursday. He has ability to log in on Thursday to do a set day, Friday do the show, Saturday he can't log on anymore. And so then all those resources that I assigned to him are now back in the pool. We can use, anybody could use them. We could have multiple people. That's the beauty of distributed workflow anyway, is that you can have 2 people sitting on a TD position. And if one of them loses the internet or one of them just needs to get a coffee, whatever, the next person can pick up. That is a workflow we're just used to. We don't even think about it now, but there are other people that don't. And so we're just going to take a little time to kind of get everybody into that easy handoff type thing.
Yeah, it's amazing when you're sitting there and something like I had my UPS start making a little clicking sound, and we had a backup TD on comms, and I just said, hey, my UPS is flickering a little bit. You take the con, and they took it, and it was no big deal. It just was, there were some power fluctuations here, and but it was that peace of mind of knowing like, hey, I got somebody right there. They're all the way across the country in North Carolina, but they can pick up this show just like butter, like nothing. We're used to it. It's just like hands off. You've got it.
Agreed. I agree completely.
And so what about Stream Deck control? A lot of times we're giving operators just they don't even see the vMix or whatever it is that you're using, and they just get a Stream Deck, and it's just like cut, next clip, whatever buttons that you want to assign just for that role.
On the control interface side, so it's named NIMBUS Control, but we're not competing with Central Control. We're not competing with BitFocus Companion. We are actually embedding Central Control. The guy that's behind Central Controls, he's a smart cat. I don't want to try to redo everything he's done. And he's got weird hair and all, but he's a pretty nice guy too. And Joe and I are longtime friends, so I could give him a little grief every once in a while. But Joe and I have already been talking for quite a while about this. We're actually comparing a lot of notes, and he doesn't want to go as far as we're doing here and the direction I'm going, and I vice versa. Do not want to write modules on how to control an ATEM switcher with a one switch peanut thing on the ground. I just don't want to do any of that. He loves doing that kind of stuff. I don't. So whenever I look at the control side, I was like, okay, well, who's out there? What we can use? So we can still use BitFocus Companion satellite. We have in the modules we can embed satellite, so they'll have that as an option. Also, we can also have the ability to do the web panels, so they could use a touch screen if they wanted to, or clickety click. I'm not a clickety clicker. I like to press buttons, so I would use my Stream Deck, or I would use my devices that I have, which are right below my desk or to my left over here is a TriCaster switcher that's probably 10 years old, but the buttons work great, and I'm controlling a Viz Vector that's on the other end of the building over here. So, I don't want to get into the hardware control or the device control level, but we're definitely going to be working towards integrating as many of the other control options that are out there to make it easy for people too.
Awesome. All right, let's go to the next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana asks, once I log into a position, a TD, DIT director, can someone else also log into that role, or are they locked out once I click on it? If not locked, how many can log into the same role for training purposes?
Go ahead,
that's actually a great question. And for training purposes, I didn't really consider that, because we're thinking more security purposes than ever. Whenever each panel is assignable to each role or each user, which then is assigned a role, they can be copied in across, but the idea is not to have. Now I'm signed in on five at least 5 different computers right now under my account, so I can have multiple accounts and multiple screens. I was hoping that we were going to be able to show you this, but we didn't get that. But on my right here, I have 2 screens that are side by side that are running off of a NUC, the little small Intel NUCs, and that's what we're going to ship out to, because we're using, again, platform as a service. So not everybody has everything in their hands. So if our client comes to us and says, hey, we want you to provide the TD, the producer, the graphics guy, and the replay operator, the hardware in order to interface, we're going to send a NUC and these small little 18-inch monitors. Or if they have their own monitors, they'll hook them up to that. But the idea is that as flexible as possible in the hardware side to be able to we're going to enable our clients to be successful as much as possible. Regarding the logins, though, I think I answered that, is that the logins are assignable. So I could have a TD view for, say, teaching purposes, and then everybody would log into that same view and they would all see it. But the idea more so of it is each person does have the capability of changing their view, because the roles, every one of the user panels and the UPIs, those are actually assigned to that role and that user. And so everything is customizable to that user. But they have a base to start with. So a new client starting in, they would have a base. We would give them a base. They're not just going to have an empty screen to go to. So
what's the latency like for that TD, and what's the quality of their multi-view? Is it just regular WebRTC, or how fast?
It is WebRTC. We can embed multiple different ways. We're using WebRTC fairly, I would say it's definitely under a half a second. One of the other things, we talk about hardware and other ways of doing things. We've partnered up with a company that's making a black box. It's a black box, but on the back, as you can see here, it's got a network input, it's got an HDMI output, and that's all I needed. It runs WebRTC inside it. So we finally have a hardware solution that we can send out to our TDs, our producers, whoever that's in the field. We can send out this box and not a computer, though technically I guess it is a computer inside, but it's running a built-in OS. And then we could administer to whatever that person needs to see. We could push the WebRTC viewer directly to them, to whatever they need to see, and make changes on the fly. So that's going to be a beautiful add-on as a possibility, instead of not having to depend on a browser to play WebRTC. But as far as latency, there is no latency through our layer that's any more than the normal you would ever have. So if you're going from here to Seattle for right now, so Texas to Seattle, or going coast to coast. JJ, real quick, what is the milliseconds in latency?
42 milliseconds from California to Virginia. From Texas to Seattle, it's around 38 milliseconds.
Thank you, JJ. All right,
welcome.
So that is it's amazing that he knows that information just like that, right? But I see that you add a little bit more, for the control layer. There's also some latency here sometimes too, right? So, but when you press that button and you hit go, it's no different than if you were talking directly to the system of companion or talking to the system of central control. It's still just going to be just as fine. There's no latency in our system because we're using WebRTC. It's just embedding it in a browser that's underneath the browser. So it's more of a control layer than an actual embed layer.
Wow, exciting stuff. And who would be the ideal client? I mean, if you could just, next year, 2025, you get like this big sale, somebody just says, we're adopting this, we're putting it all out there. Who would that be? Would it be the broadcast level, the corporate level? Like who's the audience for this?
No, this is definitely, I don't see this as, there could be broadcasters, bigger broadcasters that are really laying into this, but there's a lot of medium-sized and smaller production companies out there that are doing remote productions. We're really targeting this at them, and it is going to be starting out where you would have just we're looking at 3 different levels. This one level would be you would start out and just have the control interface, the control level of managing users and authentication and all that, and then you have the ability to add in your cards with the links, the punch cards with the links, and then after that, you get into more of the gateway, and that's like the second level, and then we're managing a lot more for you. And then the third level, which we call limitless level, that is where we're adding in our cloud resources. You can, if you don't want to or have the budget to buy a Sienna processing engine, you can rent that through us. Or if you needed, say you needed 4 more licenses of Vector and you didn't have the wherewithal to do that for a week, a day, or whatever, we could do that for you. Or 3 plays, what vMix license, whatever. These are all resources that we have in our cloud and in our private clouds that we will have in the top level available to our clients. But it's really hard to say, Guy. I don't really know if there's a perfect client yet. Clients like office hours, I mean, with the big budget that we're working with in office hours and everything, I'll probably be able to make a pretty big dent with that. I might be able to buy a coffee next week or so, but we're gonna try to get it involved as many people's hands as much as possible. And I want to help. And office hours is definitely one of those areas that I thought would be perfect for it. So maybe extra hours coming up Monday, we'll give it a shot with some people's hands on, and then we'll see where it goes. But I don't know if there's a huge client out there that I'm gaining for. Like I said, I built this for us first, and it was to make my job easier.
That's the best way products come out, is just like there's a need, there's a problem, you come up with a solution, you want to share it with others. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a game changer for certain productions, especially those that don't have licenses. Because like for Splashtop, for the SSO login, we would get like logins that say like Op1, Op2, Op3. And I know that they're paying for that business account, that license. So I only have like 4 licenses, and they're spending, they're like 100, my renewal's coming up, it's like 120 or $150 a year per user. Whereas these guys had to get 10 accounts to get onto that next level to get the SSO, so that they could just pass that out to operators. And so we're leveraging basically your licenses that you have, so that as a need comes available, I don't have to buy for the year when I only need it for maybe 3 gigs a year. Exactly. That can be huge. So I see lots of opportunity. I can't wait to see like the menu. Is it going to be like a a la carte where you go to a restaurant and you're just like, I'll take a little VisVector and a a color correction, a little RCP, and sprinkle a little UI150
I don't know if
control.
It'll be that pretty and everything, but all I'll need 2 things. I'll need your ACH number and your account number, and then I'll just send you the bill whenever it's done, and just keep telling me.
Keep adding stuff on.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm amazed at some of the stuff. I mean, a lot of people don't know, but you do stuff with another client that's pretty big on the East Coast, and things like Dante controlling a fader in Texas, where you're at in your master control, and being able to control that fader far away. I mean, can you talk a little bit about how that project and things like that have made this come about?
Oh yeah, it was completely, it was all part of it too. I would say that most of the real drive behind the project really came from having to manage all the multiple users and having to onboard users remotely that are working in their own place. That it's like we have to install. Oh, by the way, here's an installer. You need to install this. Oh, I have a new computer. You have a new computer. Okay, great. Let's start all over again. So the hours put in for doing that. Oh, you have a Mac. Okay, that's a whole another different set of tools that I got to give you, because this doesn't have the same thing. You don't have the same performance on a Mac as you do on a PC. I'm not saying PCs are better, but they are. But the thing about the browser side is, this is a browser. So if I wanted to just use my iPad, I could use my iPad. And I have this running on my phone. And like this morning before we came into the show, that was one of the first things I did, is I opened up Nimbus on my phone, and I was doing the same desktop controls that I was doing here straight through that. So I think that there's definitely a lot of different ways and different approaches that we can do towards it. But I think the biggest thing is I want to try to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to do the job they need to do. They weren't paid to be an IT tech to install software, but they were paid to run video, run audio. Audio, I'm an ex audio guy, or I say, I guess once you're an audio guy, you're never not an audio guy. So I still get my hands on an audio mixer from time to time. And one of those things is, as Guy was asking about, is we were controlling a studio in Charleston that we had using a mutual friend from office hours here. Andy runs a plugin called Remotely Possibly. And so we had a QL1 and a CL1, 1-to-1. And those, as soon as I touched a button, as soon as I moved a slider, whatever I did on the QL1 here at the office, it happened on the CL1 over there. So if I twisted a knob, it was 100% as real-time feel as I could ever think it would ever be, as if I was sitting there. We were running his show. We were running his audio like that. And we did multiple shows like that. And we still have some coming up. The next part after that is like, okay, well, I needed some multi-viewers from him because I needed to see a spy cam in the room. I needed to see other things. Well, that's where we were using a Sienna processing engine there that we were papping back to here. Same thing as I wanted my users just to be able to sit down, log into a system and not go, oh, I need to open this link. I need to open this link. I need to open this link. It just needed to be in one interface. And so that's how Nimbus came to be in that situation, is I just wanted it to be simpler to get in and do the job instead of, we would spend probably 10 minutes opening up all the links that we needed. We had 16 computers and 16 screens up here that were spreading things out. If we could simplify that, it makes our job easier.
And I had heard you in the other demo mention that on the last gig you were in Europe, that there was a producer that had a Google Sheet open with all this, and it gave you some ideas as to other integrations. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so in OnTime or Rundown Studio, there's a couple that we definitely use. The producer view, if somebody wants to take that, you can kind of see it. The OnTime is a free server. It's actually a lot like ShowFlow. It has the kind of feel of ShowFlow. ShowFlow is another rundown. There's like probably 10. What we did actually, Guy, were you on that show that we did where on What Makes It Tick on our weekly show that we were doing? And we did all the rundowns. I did a rundown on the rundowns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. There's like 10 different rundowns.
We'll have to post a link for that later, but it was a great show, and I loved going through it and seeing everything. So the idea, I use OnTime because it's included in our Sienna package. So our Sienna processing engine has a module that's running this. It actually will run on we actually had it running on a show on a peplink as a Docker in a peplink, which blew me away. Again, Brandon, whenever I ask him to do something and he comes back and goes, hey, isn't this cool? So he made it work on a peplink, and it's just a little small Docker that runs, and it allows us to just import those Google Sheets directly in and gives us a more, I would call it a prettier view. It's just a more pertinent view of the information we need, not all the extra stuff. And you can go to your heart's content and colorize Google Sheets. It's still, in the end, it's Google Sheets. But the producer there in Aberdeen was sitting there with a 27-inch monitor that he had nearly the whole thing filled up with Google Sheets. And then over the side over here, he had his comm panel and he was using VCOM from us. And so with that got me thinking about this same situation. It's like, well, wouldn't it be great if we could just tie in an actual rundown? He had never used one before, but it's definitely something I've got him thinking about now. So that's our idea for throwing the rundown. You don't have to have that module. I mean, you're going to take it out. But if you wanted to use it and leverage it, it's a great tool to use, especially for the cost. It's free.
So if they wanted to rearrange their window, how would they do that? So if that guy wanted comms over here.
Sure. So you just click on the top edit panel. And then at the bottom right corner, I could squeeze that around. You notice this one resizes a little bit differently because it's an embedded web page. Now, if I wanted to move it down, up, around, wherever it needs to be, same thing on this module over here. If I wanted to make that a little larger, or if I wanted to bring this one up and line them up at the top, that's it. And then I just save it and save that to the cloud. Now, if I did go in and make some moves around and say I had this down here and I really didn't like where it was, okay, so then I just save it locally. If I go back and I reset goes to wherever I saved it as a cloud last. So the cloud is the one source of truth that's where I started from. And so if I wanted to have this module set up in the UPI here as the common thread, I would save that to the cloud. And if I wanted to add another module in, it's as simple as just adding the module. I'll give it a title. I'll call this multi-viewer. And you notice it is an HTTPS because it is a secured system. I'm going to go over to another page over here and just double check, make sure that we got a link that works. And I'm just taking this link and I'm dropping it in this URL here where this position is, right? And I'm saving, and then I want to resize that to where I want it and save that to the cloud.
Cool.
And that was the next one. So that link is, I see what happened now. I need to address that with the guys. Apparently something had broken on the back end on that video signal. So it knows there's no signal, so it went there. But you understand the flow behind it.
Yeah.
But that's as simple as moving things around and customizing it to where you need it to be.
That kind of answers the next question, but let's go ahead and read it, JJ, as far as Peter Moore's question.
Well, that was Peter Kirk, but Peter Moore in Auckland, New Zealand asks, I'm assuming you can go full screen to get rid of the browser tabs and have more real estate. What about removing the logo pane?
If you want to look back at the share now, this is full screen here. And you can see the on time, I have a different view on the on time. So there's a button on the right side over here where you can full screen it. You will not be able to take the top bar out of the way because that's where the actual, that's how you can switch between your different views if you had multiple views assigned to you. Now, if you came in and you were just the TD for a specific project, and that's your only responsibility, you wouldn't see any of these other views. So the UPI is assigned to that user, and we would actually not have everybody's UPIs listed in there. I see them all because I'm, an admin user, super admin. But this logo up at the top, it does have functionality. It takes you to the website of NIMBUS Control, and I have to leave that button there. Is what I'm told, so I can't move.
Cool. We have another question in that same vein. Let's read that next one, JJ.
Peter Kirk from Ohio. Can you also embed websites that don't support iframes, or is this all mostly iframes?
It is mostly all iframes. That's the way it is supposed to be done. 80% of the links that I get off of Sienna Processing Engine are not. So they're just standard HTTP because that's the way it was designed. So they're not secure, but that's what our gateway does. And so our gateway acts as an intermediary, and we can write in and we can convert those, depending on the project, we can write in and convert everything that we need into HTTPS if we need to.
Next question.
Peter Moore from Auckland, New Zealand again. You mentioned this HTML5. So do the individual parts of the whole page act as separate programs and can be restarted without affecting all of the feeds, etc., within the overview? Think you know what I mean?
Do you know what he means?
No. I don't really. When I mentioned HTML5, I was mentioning that regarding graphics. So graphics are Singular, for instance. Singular.live is HTML5. Flowix is an HTML5 graphics package. And SPX, we know that well around here. SPX is a module, and we have that as a control module also to be able to put in. So those are the HTML5 parts I was talking to. As far as the modules themselves on the page, it is a browser representation. So the modules themselves are not microservices or of sorts, but you can definitely close the browser and reopen the browser just like you normally would do anything else.
Next question.
Tommy Shantz from St. Paul, Minnesota. How many users can be fired up in an instance?
How many?
Well, we haven't broke it yet. I think we pushed it towards 30 as far. I mean, as far as users, it's scalable. It's completely scalable. So we just add more servers to it to where we need to start. It's running on a few servers, talking to each other, doing the authentication, doing a bit more of the back end engine part that we have to do. Like I said, with the NIMBUS gateway and all, but it is all scalable, and that's the reason we built it like we did, was so that we could grow. I mean, we're shooting for 100,000 users by the end of 2025, but yeah, if we can get to 1 million, I'd be happy with that too.
So there's one last question in the queue, but before we get to that one, I wanted to ask: is there anything that we're missing out of the entire demo here that you wanted to get across before this whole thing wraps? And I see JJ raising his hand too, but are we missing anything?
I do say that really the bigger parts of everything that we talked about are it, and I just hope it sparked people's minds, because we're open. I'm definitely still at the point where I am 100%, always have been, open to any suggestions. So if there's certain needs that you have, send me an email, jeff@nimbuscontrol.com, and I spell Jeff with one F because it's JEF, as you should spell it, at nimbuscontrol.com. And so send me an email if there's a certain things, or just go to Nimbus Control and you can log in and or send you can't log in yet, but that's coming in January. We'll open up the big gateways at that point. But if you want to send us some suggestions, or hey, can I put this in that? I mean, we're going to go for it. We're going to try it. We're going to try to break it every way we can. And I'm continuously doing that and fixing it. So ask Brandon, he knows. There was a lot of that.
Awesome. And I think JJ has one more.
Yes.
I have one too. Is there going to be some NDI bridge integration in this? It just popped in my head with the 6.1 little dashboard there. Or is that JJ? Did I just steal your thunder?
Mine was twofold. Is one, have you talked to someone like Pablo Quintana or the folks over at Highcliffe to have in this a health check to verify that the NDI connections are valid for your users? So if you have a TD in Ohio or in Washington, seeing which one has the better connection as far as the NDI health. And does NDI Bridge also integrate so that you can then connect those sources at those various locations to have someone like a graphics operator someplace else come in and bring that in as a source into your production studio?
If you needed to do that from yes, and yes, not Highcliffe, but Pablo and I have had long conversations about this already, and I do have it working. So it's not as pretty right now because of some things that he's doing in his platform, which is a great platform, by the way. We've been using it for months. What we're talking about is NDI Network Manager. And so it creates and allows us to chart, and it allows us to really figure out what's happening where on our networks. So we're using it on-prem here, we're using it in the cloud, both. And that's the idea, is to be able to get that data. We have our own version that's using Grafana also as a engine to be able to visualize it. We have our own version of metrics and everything that are happening on our own servers, and also we can do that on Sienna server too. So we're picking logs out of that and we're monitoring all that. So the EICs, the geeks in us, JJ, we're going to be taken care of well. I've asked for it. It's like, I want one place to get all the information. That's the main thing. And then as far as our good old friends at NDI Bridge, NDI Bridge runs, yes. That's the simple answer, is yes. We work with it already, because it's just another machine on the network if we're looking at it, on the simplest side. So it's then just at that point, it's just a matter of taking those sources in and out of Bridge and bringing them into our platform. It's relatively simple to do, actually.
Wow, what an amazing second hour, Jeff. I really appreciate your time for coming on and sharing all this information.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, and JJ for stepping in as reader, and for Alex coming in and hosting, and for all the people on the back end that helped out. I know we had some tricky screen share stuff going on there, and we were able to still pull it off. So really thank you guys in the back end for being responsive and being able to get that stuff out. We also have some questions that might have been pushed back that we didn't get to, or actually, we can do one more. Come on. One more, JJ. Let's
last from Peter Moore. Okay, my brain. Does the interface allow you to drag and drop a video source into it, defaulting live to be off, and then made available as a source?
Yeah, well, anytime we're abiding by the new standards in the web is like when you embed or put a player, a video player on a web page, and it does not default to live, so it's in a standby mode at that point, and it's always muted. So we're abiding by all the rules that need to be abided by. As far as being made it as a source, so I guess Peter, I should have done a better job of explaining a little bit more. But it's like we're using other tools. We're more the control layer of this, and so we're using everything from Sienna processing engine. We're using central control to do our some of our WebRTC outputs, which he has a fantastic module for that, by the way. And so it's just a link at that point that we're embedding in the web page. So we're into a module in our web pages that we're controlling. So it's not actually quote a source, but it's just ability to see that. We're still using vMix. We're still using, yeah, I said it, I do. I still use vMix in some events. I won't use OBS, but I'll use vMix, but I will also use Vector a lot, or TriCaster, TC2s or TriCaster now. All those are just places we're sending our sources to. And so we're doing the mixing, we're doing the processing and everything like that within those softwares or those platforms. We're not actually doing that ourselves. We're just showing you the end result or maybe the middle result. If you're looking at a multi-viewer, you're seeing plenty of things and sources that you're choosing from, but you're not actually doing the thing.
I'm glad we're able to squeeze that last one in there because that's an important distinction as to what this whole thing's about. So thank you for that. And thank you for all the other questions from all the other producers. And we want to thank Alex and Lindsay for putting this whole thing together. And for those of you that bought t-shirts, they're shipping. Some of them have already arrived. And if you just want to flat out donate, if you had a really great year, it's officehours.global/donate. And in the Tlaloc Traversal, we hit 66,000 miles. That's 106,000 kilometers, or 522 million bananas for scale. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Guy. Appreciate it.
Cool. Thank you.
Nice work.
That was really impressive. Thanks.
JJ coming in clutch out of the darkness. I'll read. I got a fancy microphone.
Beautiful sound.
I can read. I never learned to read.
So you can go and put all those URLs back in behind an SSO?
Say again, JJ?
You're going to go put those URLs back behind a SSO as soon as we're done here? Shut them down.
Yeah. It was a little hectic this morning, to say the least. Always is, right? I had
a good explainer.
I had well, thank you, guys.